Okay, let's now look at some of the phonetic features. And first of all, things that are only found in Cockney. Trying to pin down seriously the difference between Cockney and estuary English, I came to the conclusion that three important differences are phonetic features which you find in Cockney but not in estuary English, judging by the people who are cited as examples of speaking it. And one of them, the first one, is the question of H-dropping. H-dropping is something that is found in many different kinds of English, but everywhere it's non-standard. It is perhaps the best known shibboleth in English pronunciation, that is to say, a thing that people judge you by. If you talk of an house rather than a house, or your hand rather than your hand, or an helicopter rather than a helicopter, people say, uneducated, rough. In a survey in London schools, they found that among the middle-class children, there was very little H-dropping. The boys did 10% or something, but the girls didn't do any. But among the working-class children, there was very considerable H-dropping. The girls dropped it, I think, 27% of the time, but the boys dropped it 80% of the time. So it's clearly a marker of male working-class culture. And of course, we have the paradox that this very strongly condemned feature, all the teachers always tell you mustn't do it, teacher will make you... I talked to a primary school teacher in London, I was asking him about this. He teaches children of 7 and 8 and 9. He says if someone says, me hand, I make him say it again, my hand. And he always corrects his pupils. So people have always been being corrected, yet they go on doing it. Why do they go on doing it? Because it has this hidden prestige, this covert prestige. People want to be like their own group. You speak in the way that enables you to identify yourself with the peer group you want to be identified with. And if that's a crowd of working class boys, or indeed their fathers and so on, that's what you do to fit in with them. If you ostentatiously, as a boy in school, pronounce H's in all the crucial places, then you're, as it were, declaring that I don't belong with that rough lot. I'm above them. And not everybody wants to do that. Okay, that's H-dropping then. And I say it's universally regarded as incorrect. That's a good way of distinguishing estuary English, which RP doesn't drop H's from Cockney that does. We're not, of course, talking here about H's in pronouns, fellas and so on. We're talking about H's in content words. The second thing on the handout is TH fronting. The dental fricatives of English, the TH sounds, tend to be replaced in Cockney by other things, either by labiodental fricatives, F and V, or sometimes by plosives. So what you get is, instead of I think, you get I think. I think, past tense I fall. And if we count, we go 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and 33, or 33. Now, children do this perhaps everywhere in England, but what's special for London is its persistence in adult speech. And some Londoners seem to be able to switch stylistically between the two possibilities, probably most of them, although others seem fixed on the F's and the voicing the V, so rather becomes rather, mother becomes mother, smooth becomes smooth. Interesting there that students of phonetics may have trouble sorting out the two TH sounds, remembering which is one's voice, one's voiced. Londoners implicitly have to know this because they replace one by F and the other by V. Author becomes author, father becomes father, and nobody would dream of getting them the wrong way round. So it's substituting a feature in place of articulation while keeping the voice the same. There's a Cockney singing couple called Chas and Dave who do fast Cockney patter songs, and one of those is saying, I could tell you I would rather be on the Costa Brava, with a nice rhyme there for it, rather with rather. At the beginning of a word, where you'd expect this and that, you actually often get other things in London. You may get a plosive D, this and that, den for then, or you can get nothing at all, is that. But what also happens is, particularly after N, you get another N, and this for and this, or after an L, you get another L. All this for all this. So it assimilates to a preceding N or L. So there's a lot of variety in the way the article and those other little words that begin with the are pronounced. Weakening, there are some differences in the way vowels weaken in London. In Broad Cockney, words that in standard English end in O don't end in the expected O, window, but usually in a plain schwa, window. Window. Now, those of you who've read Dickens may remember this characteristic from Mr. Squeers of Do the Boys Hall, where they have a very practical method of education. If a boy makes a spelling mistake, and the example given is the word window, then his punishment is to go and clean the windows. And of course the point is the schoolmaster himself doesn't know how to spell the word, but spells it in a way corresponding to this non-standard pronunciation. Window. So that was around over 100 years ago, and Dickens was able to make fun of it. It does mean that in Cockney, the words pillow and pillar sound identical. They're both of them pillar. And so the pillar that you sleep on and the pillar that's a column are the same. So you get some confusion then when people try and speak in a more educated way. They may well speak of a pillow supporting a building when it should be a pillar. And there was somebody I heard refer to the newspaper, the Daily Mirror. The Daily Mirror. Notice particularly that U has a weak form ya in London, which is used even in salient positions like sentence final. So I'll tell ya, meaning I'll tell you, and as a goodbye, see ya, which in our view is see you. This has quite strong social value, therefore, what the weakening is of U. The same is true of to, with the variant it has in final position. He said, I want to do it, but I'm not going to. Standard accents. He said, I want to do it, but I'm not gonna. In London, with going to or gonna.